joining us. My name is Kiana Monroe, and you have Keisha here, as you know, and we are a part of the Illustrations of Your Life Journey. We are recording, and we are also going live on Blog Talk Radio. So if you want to call in as a guest caller, the number is 323-870-4175, and bear with us because our engineer is not feeling well. So we are women and we are doing this on our own.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. And there might be a little glitches, but that's okay because we are in a community where we learn together. We have amazing guests here today. We have Kennedy and we have Amber, and I'm going to introduce them from Northwestern Mutual and let them introduce themselves because today we are talking about financial planning and financial education as a form of self-love because you know, as you all know, we are here to discuss your life journey, your loving yourself first journey. And one of the things that Keisha and I both thought was really, really important is making sure that financial education is a part of your journey. Financial relief is a part of your journey because finances stresses us all out.
Yes.
So I'm going to go ahead and give it away to Keisha. Do you want to say hi?
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you call in or even chat in. I am so grateful to be sitting here with these two lovely ladies who are going to tell us how to manage our finances or just inform us on a lot of things maybe we didn't even know about finances. So I'm glad to have you.
Introduce yourself, ladies.
So hi, I'm Kennedy. I work with a lot of young professionals, young female professionals to talk about different hurdles that financial planning they can face while they're financial planning, and really just working through, you know, as a woman, how do we need to think about our finances in a different sort of way.
Yeah.
Awesome. My name is Amber Romo. I work alongside with Kennedy in many aspects. We do focus heavily on working with women, but really it's working with anybody that has a forward frame of thinking and really wanting to understand what their goals are, deep-rooted goals, and how to get there, giving them lots of clarity, looking at the full entire picture comprehensively, and helping them get, you know, the path to get there.
Great. Yeah. What got you guys into finances and into the career that you guys are in right now?
So for me personally, I didn't study finances in college. I actually studied gender and national security.
Okay.
So my main focus was really on human trafficking and how different countries' rights for women can really affect your GDP and GNP.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came out of college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I really wanted to be in a position where I could be helping women. And so when I was doing all my interviews, Northwestern Mutual was one of the only ones that when I was going through the interview process used the term help people. So I figured, you know, that's probably the place where I want to be because that's all I really wanted out of this. And so I've always been interested in things like investments and financial planning for myself, and so it was an easy sort of integration.
And I actually went to business school, but not necessarily in the finance spectrum of it, and didn't go into business. I actually went into entertainment, was in post-production for over 15 years, you know, had fun playing in that sandbox, but ultimately wanted something more, wanted to really make a bigger impact on people's lives. And even though, you know, making movies and TV shows and helping people see through their dreams, I always wanted something more. And after giving birth to my daughter, I really needed to make a change for my family that was going to give me a little bit more control and ability to make that bigger impact that I was really wanting from my soul. So, yeah.
You guys found that at Northwestern?
Yeah, Northwestern
Yeah,
has a fantastic mentality of always put the client first, and that's exactly how I feel about it as well. I work for my clients, not even necessarily for Northwestern. It's really about the client and how can we help them get to where they want to go and really understanding them. And Northwestern's great at making sure that we are working in our client's best interest as well. So it's just very aligned with
The morals, yeah. I don't think I've ever had to worry that I was working for a company who was going to do something that I wouldn't like, whether it was in terms of like a level of people I'm working with or even on our executive level, like up in our home office. I never have to worry about kind of what's going on there, just because I know at the core of it the company's morals are aligned so closely with what my morals are that it wasn't ever a concern.
That makes sense. That's so important because I think, you know, a lot of us, the reason why we don't just jump in and do a lot of things is because with our finances because we trust. You know, we just don't know. You know, it's so foreign to us. It's numbers. It's words that we don't know. And so when we have someone telling us, it's like, are they going to take our money? Am I going to lose money? Certain investments are more risky than others, and so we really need someone that we can trust. So. Yeah,
we get that a lot actually. People are very afraid of the stock market, very afraid of letting other people help them because they feel like they're going to be after one thing, right? But we definitely are here for our clients, and it's such a nice, refreshing thing to be able to have a company back us. Now, we are individual, we both own our own businesses underneath the umbrella of Northwestern, so it's a little bit unconventional compared to some other
That's still cool
advisors.
because it allows you to think outside of the box based on
Absolutely.
relatability and experience,
Yeah.
and take that experience and bring that back to your clients.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a really cool setup that we have with the company to be able to leverage them and their amazing background, but also be able to really just do what's best for our clients.
Okay, perfect. One of the questions I want to dive into really quickly is, where do most women go wrong when it comes to financial planning?
Okay.
Sure.
So we actually are super aligned on this when we were talking earlier about it. It really is, I think, women generally, and this probably stems back from many years ago, and the man goes off to work and the woman stays at home type mentality.
Yes.
And so a lot of women, I think, are just afraid, so they rely on their father or their brother or their husband, and they're not necessarily taking control of their own situation, and instead they're just relying on somebody else to guide them. So when we meet with some women, they literally have zero idea as to what they have going on. It's like, do you have an IRA? I think my dad set one up for me, but I'm not really sure. He's kind of doing it. I'm like, are you contributing to it?
Do they know what an IRA is? I didn't know what an IRA was until I was maybe 30, 31.
Yeah.
I didn't get my first one until I was 34 because I was like, oh wow, this is something I really need to have before I'm 40.
Yeah.
So
That's not an uncommon thing to
Not at all.
find people who don't know what an IRA is, or even don't know what a 401k is. They just know that it's okay, I have it through work, but they don't know what that means or what that actually works as in their plan.
Yeah. What is the difference between the IRA? Because I always had a W-2 job, where I had 401k, and they come, they tell you, contribute this much money, and you really don't know where your money's going.
Exactly.
So you're just hoping that when you get that statement, it's growing and not shrinking. And then now that I'm more of an entrepreneur, I'm looking at different things. And just wanted to know the difference between like IRA, 401k. I even had someone talk with me about investing in insurance companies. It sounded real good at first, and I kind of got leery because it's a little intimidating. So
Yeah, it's really the size of the bucket. The 401k is offered through an employer, and the amount you can put in there per year is $18,500. Now that changes. Same with the IRA, but the IRA is an individual retirement account that you fund yourself when you don't have a 401k. So that's pretty much the difference. The IRA is only $5,500 that you can put in each year, so the bucket is much smaller than the 401k, which is $18,500.
also you get penalized. You can get penalized.
something with taxes.
So, like whenever you take it out, or if you touch it, or just things like that.
So if you pull from either a 401k or an IRA before you're 59 and a half, you are penalized. The reason for that is because it's primarily a retirement account, so you're supposed to use it closer to your retirement age. But the other tax component is 401ks take pre-tax dollars. So if you make, let's say, like $60,000 and your employer takes $5,000 out, you only have to file for $55,000. Whereas with an IRA, you do post-tax dollars. So you tell the IRS that you've made $60,000, but whatever money's left over, when you take it out during retirement, it's tax-free. So the 401k,
That's a Roth IRA.
Roth IRA, excuse me. So the 401k, I thought that's what we were talking about, but I completely just made an assumption. Yeah, exactly. So a traditional IRA has the same kind of structure as a 401k. A Roth IRA is something where you put in post-tax dollars and get tax-free at the back end. And then a 401k is you put pre-tax dollars and pay taxes on it when you pull the money out.
It's basically, do I pay taxes now or later?
Exactly.
Right, and everybody wants to do the Roth because that's when you get tax-free money at retirement.
Right.
However, there's an income cap. So as a single person, and these numbers are rough because they also change every year, if you make over $120,000 as a single person, you can no longer contribute to a Roth. Basically, it's the IRS saying like, hey, congratulations, you make a good living, you cannot participate in this.
Oh wow.
As a
Thank you,
married
IRS.
fair, there's IRS.
Good old IRS.
As a married couple, it's about 160.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, so there's an income cap which basically limits who
And then
can
there's other
participate.
options on what you can
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
at that point. At that.
So share with us what those other options are. What are the steps for those who have absolutely no idea? What are the steps moving forward to get a 401k or an IRA, and which do you think is best based on income based, or if they're married or not?
If you have a 401k offered through work, you always should participate in it,
Okay.
especially because most 401ks will give you a match. So the company will say, hey, we'll give you a match up to 3% or 6%. That's free money. So even this is another area that I think some people kind of go a little wrong, is they look at a job and they're like, oh, this job's offering me 100,000. This job over here is offering me 80, but they have a 401k and a match.
Right.
But I'm gonna go with 100,000 because that number's bigger. When in reality, this one doesn't have a 401k and doesn't offer a match.
Okay.
And this one does. This could be a better option, right? Then you look at like health coverage and how much are they gonna pay on my health benefit?
And if the money is pre-tax, you're actually end up coming home with more money.
Exactly.
Different things to think about, really.
Yeah, it gets super complicated and that part of it.
Okay, so that's having a job and then getting their 401k
Yeah.
through their job. What if they are self-employed? A lot of women now are self-employed. I have a really good friend who runs a daycare center. If she wanted to get into a 401k plan, but she's running a daycare center, how can she do that? Or to all the women who are starting up but want to
Plan
do
for
something,
retirement.
but they don't work for an actual 9 to 5, so they don't have that 401k offered to them. What are their options? What do they do?
It really depends, and that's kind of like a cop-out answer, but with financial planning, it's very individualistic. It's really just sitting down and saying, okay, what are your options? You may be self-employed, but on top of that, okay, how much are you making as a self-employed person? That'll change what options you have.
Do you have employees under you?
Exactly.
That also changes the dynamic of it. So if you're a business owner,
Yeah.
but you have 3 employees working for you, you're going to be limited a little bit.
And what type of business owner are you? Are you filing as like an LLC, an S Corp, a C Corp? Like which one of those things are you doing? Because those all have tax implications as well. So it's really less looking about, okay, like we can't say, oh, you're a business owner, so you should do this. It's more of, okay, a business owner is one piece of you as a person. So we really have to look at, okay, who are you comprehensively as a person, and how do we plan for your specific situation?
I see.
So then we look at things like SEP IRAs. Those are self-employed IRAs. So if you're a business owner, just you singly business owner, right, and you have nobody working for you that's a W-2 employee, you can participate in something like that. That bucket, going back to like bucket size, which would be the difference, is you can put up to 50,000 into that, or I think it's 20% of your income.
Say the name of that one again.
SEP, S-E-P.
SEP.
So it sounds like a lot of people probably fall in this category,
Yeah.
right? Like the
Yes.
hairdresser,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
taco salesperson,
Yes.
people that are
Whoever.
trapped out.
Yeah, so
Basic.
we work with a lot of small business owners or hairdressers. I just met with one the other day, and she's like, "I'm 32. I really need to like be an adult and get retirement cooking." And she's like, "What do I do?" At the moment, it makes more sense for her just to start an IRA because she doesn't have the capacity to really put in more than $5,500. But at some point, we will roll that money into a SEP, and then she'll be able to take advantage of the bigger bucket.
How soon can you get an IRA? To all of those watching, if you feel like I'm too young or I'm now too old, you know what I mean? How old can you start with an IRA, and what's a good amount to invest? For me, again, I didn't know until I was about 30. I didn't get my IRA until I was 32, and I actually said, you know what, I want to put a big chunk into it, so I'm going to plan. I took a tiny little percentage out of everything that I made for about 6 months, and then took that and dumped it in there. Nobody told me, though, this is the right amount, this is not the right amount, I just said, you know what, I'm going to take 6 months and then put it in there and hope for the
That's
best.
the right amount. Yeah, it all depends. I mean, you can start as early as 18.
Really?
Yeah.
At 18, everybody.
Yeah. So when I
18.
was 18 and I had a job that offered a 401k, I was participating, right? So from the very beginning. And it was very much, and it usually is based on how much can I save right out of the gate, right? So I was like, okay, I can easily do 3%. And then I'll try to increase it a little bit here and there and just climb up the ladder and max it out.
3%.
We can do 3%.
We spend 3% on our hair, nails, facials,
Beyond.
all of that.
And just some good like general rules of thumb. 20% of your gross income, so pre-tax, should be saved.
Ding.
And it's not all in retirement. We want you to live life today. Like that is super important, right? We always say that. We want to spend our life living. And that includes today because unfortunately life can be kind of too short.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we're saving for, tomorrow and 10 years from now and 20 and 30 and so on. So 20% should be saved in various buckets, not just retirement, but good rule of thumb for people to strive towards is just 20%.
And personally speaking, so when people ask me, especially younger people ask, okay, how much should I be putting away? It's less about finding that strict number of how much and more just saying, okay, what can you start with and be consistent with? So maybe right now you can put $500 away, but you can't do that next month.
Right.
So why don't we start with doing something like $100 every single month and we'll commit to that. And once that becomes easy, we'll bump it up. Because it's growth, you're growing. Savings is not something that's easy. It's never gonna be easy. But also it's like going to the gym. So, okay, we don't wanna pick up the 5 pounds because it's not gonna do anything for you. We don't wanna pick up something that's 90 pounds because you're gonna pull a muscle. So you wanna do that easy medium of 25 where you're gonna get a workout, but it's not going to hurt you.
Right. So we need to be doing something. We can all just do something. Just to backtrack, I just want to say I've worked different jobs and they've always had 401k and I've always, I guess I just, my mom or what have you instilled in me, always invest in it or take advantage of it. But I notice people I work with, I'm like, you don't contribute to your 401k. I mean, it's there, so all you have to do is like sign up for it, right? You don't have to do a lot. They take it out of your check and it's pre-tax. So I just, at least we can do that at work. It's already like, we don't have to get, it takes out the guessing part of where to invest and how, because they just suck it right out of your check and
well, what's kind of a bummer too, sorry to interrupt you, is, you didn't start till you were 32, right? Or 30, I think you said? Whatever.
30 with an IRA.
Yeah, so that's what I mean though. But when we meet with somebody that's 22, right, they're like, oh, I don't need to start that now, I can wait till I'm 30. For some reason, 30 is like some magical number, like...
Where it's like, 30, I'm
I
officially
need to
an
grow up
adult.
now.
And
Yeah, exactly.
I should have my stuff together by now.
Yeah.
But if you start younger, you're able to actually save a lot less. And if you guys haven't noticed, as we get older and we get married and have kids, life gets much more expensive. So even if you're making more money, it's harder to save more.
Yeah.
So it's always better to start with $5, $10, $20 now.
Yeah.
It's those small little things that it makes a difference. Don't wait.
Yeah.
Like start saving a little bit today,
and
you can commit to.
Yeah, and depending on what you're in, the younger you start, the more time you have to garner this thing called compounding interest. So if you're starting at 30, you only have from 30 until 65 to get all the interest out of something like an investment account, like anything like that, to build up until you're 65. But if you start when you're 20, that's an extra 10 years that you have of just getting essentially free money. And you saying, oh, well, I'm going to wait till I'm 30 is saying, well, I'm going to wait 10 years to start getting this free money out of my whatever account that I'm in.
So you've lost all that money you could have had.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just because you just didn't want to do it.
Well, you don't know what you don't know. For those who don't know, compound interest is?
So compounding interest is essentially it just needs two things. It needs time and it needs money. It's just something that if it's money that when you're setting an account, there's interest that's attached to it, and so you're garnering interest on that money.
Albert Einstein said it was the eighth wonder of the world.
Oh my God.
It's as easy as it sounds. So if you stick money in a mattress, you're not getting any interest on it because nobody's giving you any interest.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're putting it into an account that gives you interest, that means you're getting interest off of it, and that interest compounds over time, essentially meaning it grows over time. So it's pretty simple.
Okay, that's really, really good to know. Okay, one other question. How do you start, I guess, educating yourself on financial planning for your kids? Because in this day and age, I know we don't start wanting to save until we're 30, but it's really funny because I watch Say Yes to the Dress all the time.
Oh my gosh,
Love
me too.
that show.
And the girls are getting married. They're like, "Hi, my name's Nancy. I'm 20 years old and I'm married my soulmate." And they're usually in the South too, and usually, but that's how, and I'm just like, what is going on in the South? They're finding their soulmates out there at 20. But they get married and they do it at like 20, 21 years old. And so now their time, that divided of income with kids and vacation and education, like all of that now is at 20 and not at 30. So how do they start going about planning before they get married and then after they get married? Because now they have kids to plan for. They have, so the before and then when they get actually married and then after, because one of the things that I was talking to Kennedy about is a lot of women don't plan for maternity leave. And, it's like you're planning your wedding, but you're not planning to have the baby. You're not, and when people do plan for the baby, they don't always financially plan for the baby, for all things. If you get sick or if you don't go back to work, you decide, you do want to stay home a little longer. What are those steps? Like, what does that look like for a lot of the listeners? And that was like a question that somebody asked me. Please ask them. What does that look like?
I'll let the married mom. You probably have a little bit.
Well, I felt like there were a few questions in there. We'll start off with the married one, and then we'll come back to how we help our kids. Because I felt like that was kind of beautiful.
So how to help the kids, how to help when you're married, and how to start planning on your way.
Yeah.
So when you're single, and because we just got an engaged woman right here.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you.
I know. So
gorgeous.
So when you're in you're engaged. Sometimes you're engaged for like a year. You're still, to me, you have some planning to do. What does that look like as two single people merging into one union?
Just had this conversation this morning.
Okay.
Yeah. So, when we're single, we still want to start saving for ourselves, right? Like we maybe hope we're married someday, maybe we don't. What kids? That actually doesn't even matter from the beginning. What matters is, are you just saving? Are you paying yourself first? Self-care, right? So it's looking at how much am I putting into my savings account, but also not just putting it in your savings account, because that's not doing you a whole lot of good in making sure the money's working harder for you. So it is embracing a little bit of the stock market. It is embracing retirement accounts. Definitely meet with a financial professional to help guide you a little bit on what to put your money into. It's not just, hey, I like Apple, so I'm going to put $1,000 into Apple. What? You're putting all of your eggs in one basket. So we want to make sure that we're spreading the money around, making sense of it all, right? So start as early as you can, and it goes back to what I was saying about no matter what the amount is, $5, $10, something, just make sure you're paying yourself first. And then as you're getting married, it is sitting down with your soon-to-be significant other and saying, okay, what is our budget, right? Understanding our budget now as a couple. You should have already had your budget as a single person, because that's super important. We can't skip that step. But having your budget down and understanding where is my money going. And it is not about cutting yourself short. If you want to travel one big trip every year and spend $5,000 or $10,000, have at it. Just make sure it's in your budget, so you're giving yourself the ability to go spend that money and feel really good about it versus feeling guilty, right? So create your budget, and then when you're coming together with your significant other, coming together and saying, okay, what is our budget? How much are we going to be spending on rent? How much is going to be this? How much is your debt? Right? You should know.
Ask the person that you are getting, when you start dating, I think this is the conversation for dating, ask them about their debt.
Yes.
Maybe not on the first date, but
But eventually, before you say yes.
Well, there was a really interesting statistic that came out that said that people actually consider financial infidelity almost more worse than physical infidelity. So if you hide your debt or something from a partner, it's almost like getting cheated on, because you're entering into, so if you get married and your partner has $100K of debt and didn't tell you, that's a shared responsibility now in a lot of
Share, because
senses.
you should definitely also be asking and looking into these things. Don't go into it blind because you do want to know, right?
Exactly.
What do you have? What do I have?
You absolutely should
Don't get surprised with $100,000 debt.
Financial issues are like the #1 divorce
Yeah.
Yeah,
thing.
I've heard.
Whatever it's called.
Cause divorce.
Thank you. Words. Yeah, totally. So it definitely comes down to the budget, understanding where's all of our cash flow going, how much money's coming in the door, and starting to understand what do we want out of life. Do we want to buy a house? Do we want to go on vacation every year? When we start thinking about kids, how are we going to fund education? What does that look like?
Education.
Are, your wealthy parents going to pay for it? Because that'd be amazing, but not always the case. Right? Exactly. So you do want to look at everything and really be very transparent with one another in understanding where the cash flow is happening and then how much we can save and put that into an account. It doesn't mean you have to combine all of your financial accounts. You do not have to do that. You can totally keep everything separated, but you should still know where everything's going, right? And come together at least for one purpose of what do we want out of this life? How are we going to save together? It's super important. And then when it comes to having kids, planning a little bit ahead. If it's not an oops, then planning for the longer maternity leave, understanding what the disability coverage is through your work, what type of maternity leave do they have, what do they have for your spouse as well, because now many spouses can take time.
Very true. I heard about that the guys can actually take the time off as well.
So even when I was planning for my daughter, who was not an oops, but just came a little sooner than we thought, I was definitely like holding all of my vacation time, because I was like, I know I'm going to have to use this.
Okay.
So I
holding
was
vacation time.
just not taking any days off. I was, doing as much as I could to make sure that I was hoarding all of that those vacation hours, so I could use that at the front end of my leave.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
That's a really good one.
another thing that, me and Amber talked about this earlier, is just when you're thinking about things like maternity leave, is what are you planning for? Are you planning for what they're giving you, or what you're probably going to need? Because what happens if you plan to work until like you were 37 weeks pregnant, but you need an emergency C-section at 32 weeks? What happens if your baby's upside down and you actually need to be on bed rest for a couple of months? Are you planning for the complications that come along with pregnancy? And that's really just kind of really having a discussion as a mature person, saying, okay, one, am I ready for this? And two, what's it going to take to actually be ready for this, besides just being emotionally ready?
Yeah.
and understanding the different vehicles out there that can help you against the what ifs, right? And it's not the sexy part of the conversation by any means of the imagination, but looking at various insurance pieces, right? So we do comprehensive financial planning. We look at not just building up your wealth, but how do we protect you at the same time? So it is through things like life insurance and long-term disability. And the long-term disability is something that many women just dismiss and think, I don't need it. But it can actually help you with your maternity leave if you have a disability. It's not going to give you your maternity leave, do not misunderstand me. But if you did go on bed rest 2 or 3 months prior, it will pay out to you after 3 months for the rest of the leave that you have to recover.
Wow.
So leveraging all these vehicles that many people are just not familiar with because they're not really talked about. It's not, again, it's not something sexy to talk about. Hey, what's the long-term disability coverage you got? Nobody talks about that, right? Instead, they do talk about, like, what are you investing in? That's like fun and exciting. But nobody talks about insurance.
They talk about the 401k at work, kind of like, but they don't say you have these kind of insurances for disability or health issues. I know when I found out about it, I started asking around. I started talking about it. But I would have never known. And, I had friends, not just pregnancy or labor and delivery, but also I had a friend that had a serious surgery. Another one, she did have twins, one of them, but they bought these plans where they kind of like really subsidize your income. I was like, that's amazing. So now I'm like, do we have that here in our job? When do I sign up for that? So
and many people think about getting it once they're pregnant, which then it won't cover because it's considered a pre-existing condition, right? And that's always the case. Nobody wants to get something until something happens, and then they're like, oh, can I get that disability coverage now? I just got in a car accident, and we're like, that's not gonna help you.
Have one about a bad sciatica and you will be looking for, you're like, oh my God, am I going to be like this? You know, anything could happen. You just don't know. You know?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
I'm glad we're talking about financial planning because that's one we just want to kind of put to the back.
Well, that's the other thing
do
is
it.
people think financial planning, oh, you're just going to help me invest. And it's like, absolutely, we are. But what happens if you can't invest? How do we make sure that you can still invest? How can we make sure that if you do really want to buy that house in 5 years, that nobody's going to come and disrupt that, right? And we do look at making sure your income is protected through disability coverage.
Even so many things that go into buying a house. Oh my God, you really have to plan.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
College too, really quickly, you have parents sometimes that say, you know what, I've already had the baby, and my son or daughter is, you know, a couple years old, or maybe 10, or, you know, 11 years old already. Am I too late to start planning and putting money aside for college, and will I have enough by that time? When is it too late to start planning for college? Everybody knows when you have a baby, you know, you want to start planning for everything and then start putting, but if you can't at that moment in time, when can you? Is it too late to do it at 10, 12, 13?
I mean, I don't think it's ever too late to start planning because, okay, let's say that you start when they're 18 and you put away $500 for them.
You can
when
put away college money at 18 for them?
Well, when they go to college, that's $500 more than they would have had.
That's true.
So you're doing something. So the worst thing that you can do is say it's too late and not do anything. But I mean, obviously we want to start early as we can. But whatever you're doing is ultimately going to help.
Be better than zero.
Yeah, it's just the later that you get, the more options start going away. So there's certain land times where you're like, okay, this option probably wouldn't be a good idea for you anymore just because the timeline's a little bit shorter. So that's just something that you have to weigh out. Okay, do I want to be able to put into something like investments or into a 529 plan? Or am I just going to be pure liquid savings because we're a little bit later? But there's never a bad time to start saving. Maybe when they graduate, that might not be the best time. Besides that.
Okay, do you guys get a lot of people who come in and say, you know what, I need you to help me fix my credit and get me out of debt?
Yes.
You do?
All the time.
How does that work? how does that work? Can you do it, and what's the process of someone who wants to get out of debt? I have a really good friend of mine, and she is getting ready to pay off her car. And I told her, don't get another car because you're going to get another bill, and I would rather you invest that money in your business. And I want her to be financially free, as we all do, because once we pay off all of those really big bills, like, what's the next thing? That means, are we financially free? Are we, can we fix our credit now that we have no more bills like that to pay? What's the getting out of debt and fixing the credit and the way to have that balance?
It's really helping them first and foremost understand what they have going on. So if it's, 10 different credit cards with $50,000 spread across them, how much is on each one? What's the minimum amount? And really coming up with a strategy on how to pay it down as quickly as possible, right? Without all the pain involved with it.
Right, and this is credit cards, right?
That's like credit cards, because that's considered the probably worst debt that you could carry in a high number.
That's good to know. Credit card debt is the worst debt,
You do want to have credit cards.
We were talking about college. As soon as I stepped on the college campus, there was this big, beautiful canopy with get credit, be able to buy things, and I went over there and I signed up. I needed this talk. At least in high school.
You do want credit cards.
I need to know the whole.
You do want credit cards, but you
like
just
anything. Okay, well, I'll cancel all my credit cards. So try to tell us the balance of credit. Credit is tricky, right?
It is tricky
if you don't know.
You have to get comfortable with debt. We think of debt as this really bad thing because we owe somebody, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. So if you have something like a car payment, that can actually help your credit because you're consistently paying that off, and a bank is seeing that you're paying back a loan, so your credit's actually getting built up. If you have a credit card and you're spending around 30% on that credit card, it's actually helping your credit. If you have a credit card and you're not spending any money on it, it's not actually helping you. It's just sitting there and not doing anything.
Or if you have a credit card and it's maxed out, it's definitely not helping you.
Yeah.
So it's just understanding.
Should you spend a little bit? Like if
Yes.
you have 5 cards, use them all.
Yeah.
Versus, I'm gonna keep that one paid off. That's kind of like a lot of people might think, oh, I'm not gonna charge that one at the beginning. I paid it off, but kind of sounds like
You don't need to charge them all, but I would definitely say, use maybe one for gas, one, hopefully you don't have that many cards.
Yeah.
We can help you with that too, but you don't need to have a gazillion cards. Having a couple is a really good idea. You want to show that you do have credit available to you. That is how credit scores work. But you do want to have a revolving use of the credit. So using it for gas or food and paying it off at the end of every month or end of every week even can help you with not racking up massive credit.
I'm going to give you my personal example. So I have 3 credit cards. One is linked to my Uber, and that's all I use it for, is I just use it for when I Uber. One is my daily spending one that I spend for food, things like that. And the third one is actually just, I only use it at Disneyland because I just got a Disney Pass, and I figured, okay, every single month, that'll be like my card. And so you can tailor it to you as a person and say, okay, I'm only going to use this for like spending, I'm going to use this for gas, or I'm going to use this one for something else. But just understanding, okay, what can I do to make sure that it doesn't go out of control is the piece that's important.
right, because this takes a little bit of discipline. Not that much sounds like, but you kind of put your card out. This is how I like to do it. Put your card out, say this one is designed for this.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to use it for. And remember, because I might go to the gas station and might want to use my debit card because I just got paid and get gas instead of putting it on like my credit card, which would make sense because I'm going to buy it anyway.
Yeah.
And then
Might be
like
points.
every Saturday morning you go and you just pay it off for something like simple that you can just do without a whole lot of thought.
You don't have to wait till the end of the month. You can, and that's not a bad thing. But some people don't like debt. They just don't like it. So if you do have a credit card balance, okay, go home and pay it off. But at least you use something on there, and so your credit card's actually working for you. It's not just sitting there.
And the other debt piece is student loans. So we were just talking about 529s for kids and things like that. Student debt is actually not considered bad debt as long as you're continuously paying it, right? So some people walk away from very prestigious schools with a massive amount of debt.
Oh yes,
And they want to,
schools too.
yes,
Yeah.
and they want to put every penny that they're earning at that, and they're not saving for anything else. Going back to compound interest, that they're actually hurting themselves quite a bit by not doing a little bit of everything. So you want to pay down the debt in the student loan, but don't put all your energy at it, because then you're forgetting about the time that you could be having spent in putting it in an investment account for a home purchase, in your retirement account. And so it's really about how do we spread out the money in a way that is very strategic and makes sense to where you're able to take advantage of many things at one time.
That's really interesting. So I'm in the medical field. I work with people that have tons of debt, doctors, nurse practitioners, and I see them definitely trying to just knock that. That's all they care about, the debt.
Well, and some of those professionals, teachers, medical professionals, they do have a student loan forgiveness program.
Right.
So that's also a really good thing for people to understand, because I do work with a lot of nurses as well, and some of them are like, wait, what? And I'm like, oh no, 10 years.
Yeah.
Right.
You need to go ask if that is something that your, a hospital or whatever actually gives you.
So it's like saying, okay, you have let's say $50,000 of debt. Your minimum payment is something like $200 for 10 years. Okay, so you paid $2,000 into this $50,000 monster, and you're actually going to be over time paying less instead of if you just tried to attack it all at once. It's understanding like, okay, yeah, you have this thing that's kind of sitting there, but what does it mean for you? And also, why are you so concerned about it? So why do you want to have good credit? It's not about just having good credit if you're not going to do anything with it. What are you using it for? Do you want to get a car? Do you want to buy a home? Do you want to start a business? Why are you so concerned about these things?
You want bragging rights?
Yeah.
You have an 800.
Exactly. Like
Why
why?
credit score?
That's a big
For
thing.
bragging rights.
Yeah.
Yeah.